All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Sideboard MTG. My name's Eric, and today we're going to be going over the green cards for Rivals of Ixalan. As always, if you like the video, then give the video a thumbs up, and if you like the content in general, subscribe to the channel. Now, before we can jump into these 30 cards that we have to go over, I want to talk about the 1 through 5 scale, and that's just really simple. 1 being not going to get any play in standard, 5 being absolutely going to get play in standard, probably a 4 of in every deck that can cast it. So that's the scale, just kind of a strongly agree with play in standard versus a strongly disagree with play in standard. So let's keep that in mind, and we're just going to jump straight into it here. Now, the first card is a 2-mana instant speed spell, Aggressive Urge. 1 green and a colorless will get you target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Draw a card. Now, the only thing that I could really think of this getting any play whatsoever would be in maybe some type of Teamer Grow deck or Spells Matter, or just a bunch of cantrips or something like that. Maybe if there was a Primal Amulet deck or something like that that could make this only cost 1, and it would be actually more about having cards that replace themselves than it would be about the actual buff on the card. Maybe then it would get some play. So I'm going to give this a 2, as I don't really think that this card would get some play, but there could be something out there that might get some use out of it. Next here we have Cacophodon? Cacophodon. Yeah, let's call it Cacophodon. This is a 4-mana 2/5 with Enrage. So 4 mana will get you a 2/5 dinosaur that whenever Cacophodon is dealt damage, untap target permanent. Now, yeah, Cacophodon could untap itself, or it could untap a land, it could untap, I guess, just about anything, but how dangerous is your 2/5 swinging at them, and what are we really wanting to untap? Is there some value there? Maybe in draft this might be a good card, but I don't really see this getting any play in standard, unless there's just a really good Enrage deck. Again, probably going to go with a 2 here. I just don't really seeing this getting much play. Next, we have Cherished Hatchling. Now, this is another 2-mana Baer. We've seen a lot of those in white. Now, it doesn't really favorably pass the vanilla check with the 1 green and 1 colorless getting a 2/1 body. If it was a 2/2, that would be much better, but the 2/1 makes it easy to die, and that's really relevant because this dinosaur's got a when it dies trigger. So whenever Cherished Hatchling dies, you may cast dinosaur spells this turn as though they had flash. And whenever you cast a dinosaur spell this turn, it gains, when this creature enters the battlefield, you may have it fight another target creature. So with this card, your dinosaurs get flash and fight. That seems really good, if for no other reason than your opponent's being too scared to kill it or too scared to swing into it. As if they swung into it, whatever damage they did take, you may be able to, or they did get in on you, you may be able to flash in some good Enraged dinos or something like that, get some massive value out of it. Ripjaw Raptor is one of the first things that comes to mind, but yet, whenever you cast a dinosaur spell this turn, it gains. So, Regisaur Alpha, you don't get the trigger off the token because the tokens are not going to gain the fight mechanic, but either way, being able to flash in a Regisaur Alpha or something like that just seems ridiculous. So I definitely think that this is probably going to get some play. I don't think it's going to be just a heavily played card in the Dinosaurs deck, but just depends on how the Dinosaurs deck plays out. it may actually be an extremely good or an extremely powerful card. I'm going to give it a 3 though. I think it's going to get a little bit of play, but only in the niche deck, the decks that's built for it. So next here we have Colossal Dreadmaw, and this is a 6 mana, so 4 and 2 green will get you a 6/6 with Trample Dinosaur. It's got a little bit of flavor text from Captain Lannery Storm here. Remember when it was the most terrifying thing you had ever seen? A 6/6 with Trample. Ooh. Yeah, well, at once upon a time, 6/6 with Trample was good. I don't know if this is going to be any good now, but if you could manage to get this out a little bit early, it might be. I think in most of the Dinosaurs decks, you probably going to have red, so I think the 5 mana uh, Monstrosaur or whatever is probably just a little bit better here, as this can't protect itself. So I'm going to give this a 1, as I don't see it'll get much play, but in draft it's probably going to be a bomb. Alright, so Crested Herd Collar here, 5 mana 3/3, so 3 colorless and 2 green will give you a Dinosaur with Trample, and when Crested Herd Collar enters the battlefield, create a 3/3 green Dinosaur creature token with Trample. So for 5 mana you get 2 3/3s with Trample. Seems pretty good. I actually think that this is probably a really well-priced Dinosaur, and an actual card with Trample on it that can give you another body doesn't sound very bad. And these are 3/3 bodies. That's not that bad. That's not anything to laugh at. Trades favorably with most creatures, and a lot of creatures will need some help to actually be able to kill it. Think Whirler Virtuoso or something like that. Those are 2/3s. So this is a relevant card here. So I'm going to give this a 3. I think it'll get some play in the Dinosaur deck. Next here we have Deeproot Elite. This is a 1 green 1 colorless, so 2 mana 1/1 Merfolk Warrior. When another Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on target Merfolk you control. So this I actually think is an extremely powerful card, because you don't have to actually cast your Merfolk. All you have to do is have a Merfolk enter the battlefield. So this is kind of like a Metallic Mimic, as every time a Merfolk enters, you could just have that Merfolk gain a +1/1 counter. If you have the Merfolk enchantment that every time you cast a Merfolk you gain a hexproof Merfolk, you start making 2/2s. If you have a Metallic Mimic out, then you're making 3/3s. Wow, this thing just absolutely. I think this will get some play in the Merfolk deck. I'm going to say a 4. I think this is going to get some standard play. I really like this one. Alright, so next here we've got 1 mana. 1 mana spells. We've got to Enter the Unknown here. 1 mana sorcery. Target creature you control explores. You may play an additional land this turn. Well, I'll go ahead and say a 4 on this. I think that this will get some play in standard. I don't think it's going to be just an absolute 4 in every green deck. Not as long as something like a Toon is around, and you have to have a creature on the battlefield. But because it is a 1 mana spell that can allow you put a +1/1 counter, or even draw a land off the top and then play an additional land, I think that this is going to get some play in standard. So I'm going to rate this as a 4. I definitely think it's going to get some play in standard. Next here we've got Forerunner of the Heralds. Again, there's a Forerunner for each of the 5 colors. This one is 4 mana, 1 green and 3 colorless, will get you a 3/2 body. And when Forerunner of the Heralds enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a Merfolk card. Reveal it, shuffle your library, and put that card on top of it. So it goes on top of your library. And then whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Forerunner of the Heralds. This is a Merfolk Scout, so it is a Merfolk, and you're going to get 1/1 counters on this when you're casting Merfolk. and you get to go pick whatever merfolk you want. Maybe it'll get some play, but I just don't really see merfolk wanting, 4 mana creatures. If merfolk ends up with a kind of a toolbox feel to it, then maybe this will get some play. I'm going to say 3 on this, as I think it'll only see a little bit of niche play. And we're going to move on to Ghalta Primal Hunger. Most people have seen this preview 1,000 times, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is a 12 mana 12/12, so double green and 10 for a 12/12. But this green Elder Dinosaur has a cost reduction. Ghalta Primal Hunger costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. It has trample. So my actual thoughts on this are you can reanimate it, or you can just build a deck around slamming it as early as possible. I think most people have figured out ways to get it down on 3. I think reliably it's probably going to be around turn 4 before you can get it down. But because it can actually get cast on 3 thanks to vehicles and things like that, you're going to see this early, and the big worry is just having this trapped in your hand. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on it, because we could talk about theory crafting on how you could get this card out and what the implications of having a 12/12 that could potentially only cost you 2 green mana. Yeah, this could be a thing. This could definitely be a thing, and we will be seeing this cast on turns 3, 4, 5 very easily. So Ghalta Primal Hunger, we're going to be seeing that card. I'm going to give it a 4, as it will be seeing standard play. Next here we have Glent Grove Stalker, a 2 mana 2/1, so vanilla check kind of. So 1 green, 1 colorless. Glent Grove Stalker can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Merfolk Warrior. So my first thought when I seen this card was, great, another Glent something card that I'm going to miscall Glent Sleeve whatever. But I don't think that this is a card that's going to get a lot of play unless there's some tokens decks or something like that, and merfolk's really needing to just get through and they don't want to worry about chump blockers. So I'm going to give this a 3. We're going to put it down around niche play. I don't really think that this is where merfolk wants to be on their 2-drop, even with the blue-green versions. I just think that there's more powerful 2-mana merfolk. So we'll put this as a 3, but I'm almost wanting to say a 2 on that. All right, next here we have Hardy Veteran. Now this is a 2-mana 2/2, 1 green and 1 colorless will get you a human warrior that, as long as it is your turn, Hardy Veteran has +0/+2. So on your turn you've got a 2/4. Maybe, but it doesn't block really well, just has a good body for surviving while it attacks through, maybe? My initial thoughts are this is not extremely impressive, but a 2-mana 2/4, even if it's only a 2/4 half of the time, that well passes the vanilla check. So maybe this is a fair card. It is a human warrior, a green warrior. There wasn't a lot of green warriors, so maybe it'll get a little bit of play, but I'm going to put this as a 1. I don't think that this is going to get any standard play. Next here we got Hunt the Weak. Hunt the Weak is a sorcery for 4 mana, 1 green and 3 colorless. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Then that creature fights target creature you don't control. Don't like it. It seems like we had Prey Upon, and this is 4 mana sorcery when we had Dromoka's Command in standard not that long ago. So don't really think this is worth it. It is a piece of removal and it is a fight card, and fight cards are pretty good, especially when you can make your creature, profit through a fight, and adding a +1/+1 counter can definitely do that. So maybe in draft it'll get a little bit of play, but if Pounce is not getting any play at instant speed fight right now, I don't think that a 4-mana sorcery fight, even if it does give that +1/+1 counter, is going to get much play. So I'm going to put this as a 1 and say that it's not going to get much play in standard. Next here we've got a 1-mana merfolk for so Jade Baer here, a 1/1, and when Jade Baer enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on another target merfolk you control, which makes this a really bad turn 1 mana 1/1. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't get some play. 1-mana creatures are also really, really good on turn 3 in conjunction with a 2-mana spell, or even just being able to play a 1-mana spell and leave 2 mana open for, like a counter spell or something like that. So Jade Bearer may not actually be a bad spell to have. And if you are running it in, a heavy merfolk deck that has, the deep root waters where you can get the additional tokens and things like that, you might want a lot of really cheap merfolk so that you can just kind of churn these out. And if that is the case, then Jade Bearer might get some play. So I'm going to give this a 3. I think in the certain niche decks, it'll get some play. Alright, next here we have Jade Craft Artisan. 4 mana, 1 green and 3 colorless for a 3/3. Merfolk Shaman. When Jade Craft Artisan enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Man, one thing Wizards doesn't really seem to like about Rivals of Ixalan seems to be good pump spells or good pump interactions. I mean, we got a giant growth converted mana cost +1/+1 draw card. Man, that was brutal. Now we get Resilient Kenra for 4 mana. I don't know about that. Okay, so we'll give that a 1. I don't think that's going to get much play. It might be good in draft, but I don't think it's going to be very good in standard. Next here we have Jade Light Ranger. Double green and colorless will get you a 2/1 Merfolk Scout. When Jade Light Ranger enters the battlefield, it explores, then it explores again. Now this is a card I've actually asked quite a few people about because I was really interested in this card myself, and there's a lot of interactions that it can actually fit into the meta into a couple different decks, and there's a lot of profit in those decks, but I'm not going to actually talk about interactions that you might be able to do with Walking Ballista, or sorry, not Walking Ballista, but Winding Constrictor or things like that. I do want to just talk about this in a vacuum. By itself, with nothing else, you've got a couple choices when you cast this card. Now, if the top card is a land, you go ahead, you draw that, and you've drawn a card for 3 mana. And you're going to get a minimum of a 2/1 body. Next card can be a land, and now you've drawn 2 cards for 3 mana, and you were left with a 2/1 body. Now, that is more than likely going to be the floor on this. That is probably the worst thing that can happen to you is you just draw 2 lands off the top. That's not that bad, especially if you were wanting that mana, and if you weren't wanting land, then going ahead and getting through those might just help you out. And you've drawn 2 cards. The next stage up on that is the first card's a land, and the second card is not a land, and you get a +1/+1 counter. And you don't really have a lot of options on that. Now, this is going to be your second floor here on this. It's not the worst thing that can happen. You're going to get a little bit of both. At that point, you've paid for Rogue Refiner. You've drawn a card. It was a land, and you've got a 3/2 body. So that's not very bad. It's 3 mana for, draw a card and have a 3/2. It's kind of like a Rogue Refiner, but you don't have blue, so you don't get the energy. Now that is your second floor on this. Now the highest aggro floor on this will be the first card giving you the option. If the first card is not a land, all of the power goes to you at that point. You can now take your +1/+1 counter, dump that into the graveyard, keep it there, whatever you want to do. You're going to get your +1/+1 counter, but if you dump it into the graveyard, you're taking a gamble that the next card could be a land, and you're going to be digging in that scenario. However, if you just want the 4/3 body, which is a bristling Hydra without the other cool effects, if you just want that 4/3 body, all you have to do is just leave that card on top for the second explore trigger. Then you get the option of throwing it in the graveyard or not, and you're guaranteed that 4/3 body. So this card gives you a lot of option, or in the words of Dev, agency. So I really like the implications of this card, and I kind of like all of the lines and choices it gives you. And the lines open up based on how your explore triggered and how you're going to want it to trigger the second time. So really love the interactions of this card. It's a really good Johnny card, and I'm going to give it a 4. I think that some Merfolk deck is going to be playing this card, so I like that one. Next here we have Jungleborn Pioneer. Now this is a 3 mana 2/2, so fails the vanilla check, but this Merfolk Scout, when it enters the battlefield, Jungleborn Pioneer creates a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with hexproof. That's pretty cool. 3 mana, you do end up getting the 3 power. It's stretched over 2 different bodies, so it's kind of the vanilla check. I do like the fact that it's over the 2 different bodies, so you might be able to get some cool interactions off of some of the other Merfolks that you have in your deck. +1/+1 counters and such, things like that. I'm going to put this as a 3. I can see it being fairly decent as, 3 mana, get 2 Merfolk. That could be pretty good. Alright, next here we've got Knight of the Stampede. And this is a 4 mana, 2/4, 1 green and 3 colors, so get you a human knight that says Dinosaur spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Wow. Wow. Okay, but 4 mana, you play this on 4, you can play 7 mana dinosaurs on 5 if you hit a land. I think that's about the best thing you can possibly say about this. If you were able to Drover of the Mighty get this down on 3, you're playing Carnage Tyrant on 4. That's not actually that unheard of. We can do that now reliably with 2 ramp cards. So I'm not going to say that this is much better than the others. I'm actually going to put this as a not a 3, not a 2. It's just really niche in that dinosaur deck. It just depends on if the dinosaur deck's really going for those high-end creatures or not. If it is, then taking 2 mana off, it could be huge. And if it's not, then the current mana dorks that dinosaurs have is probably gonna stay where they're at. Next here we've got Naturalized. So good to see this back in standard. This is a staple. If Negate is in standard, Naturalized should be in standard. And if you're in green, this is the instant speed destroy target artifact or enchantment that you have asked for. This is it. Instant speed, 1 green, 1 colorless, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Need I say more? You can flash this thing back with, Torrential Gearhulk, things like that. Terrific card. I like that it's the Pirate's Cutlass here on the picture here, a Brontodon stepping on it. And we get a little more flavor text from Captain Lannery Storm. So, Naturalized with yet a new art. So, dinosaur art on Naturalized. That's pretty cool. Happy to see it back in standard. Many nice things. Sideboard staple, giving it a I actually want to say this is a 5 just because I know that this will get play. It's not a 4 of in every deck that can cast green, but if you are green, this is a new sideboard staple for you. It will probably no longer be any of the other, like the 3 mana spells or anything like that. Just 2 mana is just too efficient. This is probably the way to go in green. So I want to say this is a 5, somewhere between a 5 and a 4, definitely, because it's going to get some play, but it's just a sideboard card. So Naturalized, welcome back to Standard. Next here we've got Rasca Frio back. 3 mana for a 4/2, vanilla 4/2. No other abilities. Got a whole bunch of flavor text there for this dinosaur, but this is just 1 green, 2 colorless. Get you a 4/2. Probably going to be fairly decent in a dinosaur's deck and draft or something like that, just for filler. You're going to pick this late, but in the standard dinosaurs deck, I just really don't see this getting any play. If maybe they just needed more 3-drops, maybe, but I don't see the card actually getting play, so I'm going to give it a 1. I don't think it's getting any play. Next here we've got Overgrown Armorus. Double green, 3 colorless, gets you a 4/4 with Enrage. So this dinosaur, when it is dealt damage, create a 1/1 green sporling creature token. So if you can ping it, if you can get damage dealt to it, you get a creature, then maybe do something with that creature. I don't really know if there's some type of combo or something, but this is a 4/4 body on a 5 mana that can create other bodies. I like the implications of that. I'm going to give it a 3 because I'm going to say that if there's some type of deck that could make some use out of this, definitely it's going to get some play. I would love to see it with like some walking ballistas or something like that. There are a lot of cool little interactions that you might be able to pull out with this deck, especially like my first impression would be like modules or something like that. You get a decoction module. I mean, it's a lot of cards you would need to get some things to go off, but someone might pull it off, and it might just be a really good synergy card in a deck. So I'll give it a 3. It probably going to get some niche play in a dinosaur deck, or maybe even some cool little enraged deck. All right, next we're going to have Path of Discovery. Now, this is an enchantment for 4 mana, 1 green and 3 colorless. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. Now, we have quite a few different ways to make a creature enter the battlefield infinitely. Where does this fit in with that? So we're going to jump straight to a 3 on the rating and say that there's probably going to see some play for this. I worded that greatly. This is probably going to see some play. I think that maybe the Abzan Miner deck might be able to get some use out of this or something like that. It's not 100% draw a card, but if you can bounce your creatures enough, you can start throwing cards in your graveyard, and you can do some really cool interactions right there. I don't really know how this goes through, but I can see you guaranteeing what cards you have on top of your library. The problem would be decking yourself. Gonna give this a 3. I think there's a niche for it. I think it's gonna see some play, but we'll just have to see just how good it really is. Next here we've got Plummet. Now this is another reprint that we've had in standard and in other formats. Destroy target creature with flying for 2 mana. 1 green and a colorless, instant speed. Pow. Gone target creature. Glorybringer, gone for 2. It's a pretty cool card, and it's seen some sideboard play in the past, so I wouldn't rule it out of seeing a little bit of sideboard play again. Because I only think it'll be sideboard, I'm going to give this a 2. If it does see play, it'll just simply be a little bit of sideboard play. Next here, we've got a 7 mana dinosaur. We were talking about maybe casting 7 mana dinosaurs before. Now, this is double green and 6 colorless for a 5/5 dinosaur with an Enrage ability. When Polyraptor is dealt damage, create a token that is a copy of Polyraptor. Polyraptor takes a ping, you get another Polyraptor. When a creature enters the battlefield, you need to be able to do something. If you can deal, damage to both of those, now you get to get four more, or sorry, you end up with four. Then if you can deal damage to all of those, well, it could get out of hand, like, wow, through the roof very quickly. I expect someone to put together some really cool jank with this. Matter of fact, calling out to all of my subscribers for the Reddit subscriber Sunday. Wow, what are you going to do with Polyraptor? I'm going to give this a 4, as I think someone's going to build something around this. We will see a standard deck. Whether it's really good or not, I don't know, but people are going to build around Polyraptor. Next, we've got a 6 mana sorcery, Strength of the Pack. Double green and 4 will get you put 2/1/1 counters on each creature you control. That is pretty good. If one of those creatures happens to be a Winding Constrictor, that's 3 counters on each creature. That's pretty huge. I want to talk about this in a vacuum. I don't really think it's going to get played because of the 6 mana. But if there is a go wide strategy, I could see this as a one of in a deck. I'm going to give it a 2 though, because I don't really see it getting much play, but there might be a slight call for it in a particular style of deck if it comes to that. I don't really think that this is where you want to be for 6 mana, but if you can have the right board state, you might absolutely love this. Next, we've got Swift Warden here. This is a 3 mana 3/3, so double green and a colorless gets you a Merfolk Warrior with Flash, and whenever Swift Warden enters the battlefield, target Merfolk you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Now, a lot of you might actually be really familiar with this effect that was on, I think it was Rattle Cage. It was a spirit. You could flash it in, and it was a 2 mana 2/1 flyer or something like that that gave another spirit hexproof. Now, this is a 3/3 for 3 that would give another Merfolk hexproof. I don't know just how good that is, but I do think that 3/3s are actually really good. Not quite as good as 3/4s, of course, but 3/3s are really good, and the fact that you can give this flash and protect something that might be about to eat the only removal spell they have, that's probably pretty good. So I can see this getting some play. I'm going to give it a 3. I think that it's going to get some play, but of course it's only going to be in that Merfolk deck, and only if the Merfolk deck's not just already cramped on 3-drops. I think there's a lot of 3-drops that deck's going to want to play, and I don't know how many spots there's going to be available for Swift Warden, so I'm just only going to give this a 3. Next, we've got Tender Shot Dryad, 5 mana for a 2/2. So 1 green and 4 colorless gets you a Dryad with Ascend. And Ascend, for everyone, this is the first green Ascend card we've seen so far. And this, whenever you have 10 permanents, you get a City's Blessing. And once you have City's Blessing, you have it for the rest of the game. So at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green Sporling creature token. Sporlings you control get +2/+2 as long as you have the City's Blessing. Now, this is a Dryad, so it will not get +2/+2, but your Sporlings will, as long as you have the City's Blessing. This is just a 2/2 for 2, so I really like the card. I like the fact that it can pump out some creatures for you. You're only going to get 1 creature per turn. They are going to have to use a removal spell on this, otherwise it just sets back, continues to make you some Sporlings, which are good little blockers, I assume. Especially if you get your City's Blessing, you got 3/3s, they're good attackers at that point. I don't really know how good or bad this is going to be, but I definitely think some people are going to try to play it. So I'm going to give it a 3. We will see something out of this. It just may get held back by Magma Spray and Shock. Those cards being just really in the format. They are there. They are seeing play. You can abrade this. You can lightning strike it. Of course, you cannot fatal push it though. So against the black decks, they do have to do something like a Vraska's Contempt or find another way to actually remove this. So against the black decks, maybe this is the way to go. However, against pretty much all of the other colors, there's not a lot of removal spells in their deck that can't remove this. So I'll give it a 3. I think someone's going to put it in some type of deck. I really love the art on it. I think that Dryad just looks awesome there, holding the, or about to pick the flower here. I just really like the card and hope that someone can find a way to abuse it. Next here we've got Thrashing Bronson Don. Now Thrashing Bronson Don is double green and a colorless for a 3/4 dinosaur. Wow, blue past the vanilla check, and then it has an ability. 1 colorless to sacrifice Thrashing Bronson Don, or 1 colorless and sacrifice Thrashing Bronson Don. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Ooh, wow. Now this may actually be better than Naturalized if you can cast the double green. Now it doesn't give you instant speed, but it does allow you to just throw that creature down there a little bit preemptively. Now if they've got an artifact or enchantment they want to get on the battlefield, they've got to deal with this first. So, you've got a 3/4 that can really start getting in for some aggro. Plus, you just have a Naturalize on a stick at that point. Maybe this will get more play than Naturalized. I'm going to give this a 3. I think any deck that can get away with playing it, this is going to get some play. This is probably 100% going to get the Naturalized spot in the Dinosaur's deck. Why would they not run this? So definitely going to say a 3. This is going to get some play in that Dino's deck. Next we've got a 2-mana sorcery, Thunder Herd Migration, 1 green and a colorless for what's basically rampant growth. As an additional cost to cast Thunder Herd Migration, reveal a dinosaur card from your hand or pay 1 mana, 1 generic mana. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. So as long as you have a dinosaur in your hand, you can 2 mana ramp 1 basic land. That's not bad, and for 3 mana you can just do it anyway. Okay, so it's a little bit off the rampant growth. It is kind of rampant growth for the Dinos deck. I actually like this better than some of the other creatures that make dinosaurs cheaper, especially when you're only going to be casting 1 creature per turn anyway. I like those creatures better if you're going to be casting a bunch of little dinos, but most of the time you're just trying to get to 1 big dino. So I kind of like Thunder Herd Migration here, and I'll give it a 3. I think it'll get some play in the Dinos deck, maybe even a little bit of play in some of the other decks. Alright, next here we've got Wayward Swordtooth, a 3 mana 5/5. Whoa, what? 1 green, 2 colorless for a 5/5? Got to be some major drawback here. Alright, so this dinosaur has Ascend, and you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Wayward Swordtooth can't attack or block unless you have the city's blessing. Okay, so I'm going to give this a 4, as it's probably a 3.5 because it is kind of dependent on a particular type of deck. But if there is a green City's Blessing deck, a green Ascend deck, this is 100% going to get some play in that deck. 3 mana 5/5, just too much to pass up. And late game, if you have reached your City's Blessing at any point, top decking a 3 mana 5/5 seems phenomenal. So I'm going to give it a 3 for the Ascend deck. I really want to say that if Ascend is easy and a lot of decks are able to make it work, then yeah, this will probably be bumped up to a 4 on the scale, and then we'll just say, yeah, this is going to get some standard play. 3 mana 5/5 is hard not to play. Next, we've got a World Shaper here. This is 4 mana for a 3/3, 1 green, 4 colorless 1 green, 3 colorless. So World Shaper, when World Shaper attacks, you may put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. When World Shaper dies, put all land cards from your graveyard into your library. Let's try that one more time. When World Shaper dies, put all land cards from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Splendid Reclamation, anyone? Yeah, I think that's pretty much going to be the consensus of this. So if this is Splendid Reclamation and you've got to do a lot of work for it, let's say that the second ability is just trash and we're not really worried about it. Could we abuse the first ability? When it attacks, we get to mill ourselves for 3? I don't know. I'm going to say a 2. I think somebody might actually try to build around it. Might try to build some cool little jank deck or something like that. Splendid Reclamation. Aha, cool. Isn't this cool? But for the most part, we haven't seen anything out of the Crucible of Worlds on a creature. I don't think we're going to see much out of this. But then again, this may be the piece that was missing to make that deck work. So we might see something out of it, some type of land sacrifice deck, Field of Ruins every turn or something like that. But I kind of doubt it. I'm going to give it a 2. I don't think it's going to get a whole lot of play. But for the most part, that's that is the card looks like a trap. Splendid Reclamation trapped me. I built a couple decks around it, and yeah, they were cool when they could go off, and you could like get down Ulamog, and you could do all these other cool things. But for the most part, it's just a trap. So I don't like this card. I don't like the card because the card, it seems like there's just way too much going on, and if I'm doing all of those things, it just seems like there's more powerful things I could be doing with that amount of effort. But that is my opinion on all of our cards for today. I hope that you like my impression or my ideas that I have from each of the cards. So if you did, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you here for the blue cards coming up next.